everyone, and thank you very much for watching today's episode of Simply Inspired Podcast. Liam Happy here with another episode today, and today I'm joined by a very special guest who I'm really honoured to have on the show. In all honesty, today's guest, Mark Jones, former dual code rugby player, had an illustrious career in the 1980s, 1990s in dual codes, obviously international rugby. Made his name in rugby union before joining the Black and Whites. Played for many different teams, including Meath, Pontypool, Ebervale, Aberavon, and quite a few others. Born and bred in South Wales as a son of a miner. And today we're going to be talking not only about Mark's illustrious career, but also the publication of his book, Fighting to Speak, which has just been released. It's available on Amazon, it's available online in stores. And as always with my interviews, this is deeper than just a sports story. Today, we are going to be talking through some of the things that Mark has overcome outside the pitch, including overcoming a serious speech impediment. We're also going to be talking about his some of his controversial moments, as Mark is really known as a truly ferocious player in his day, having quite a few bans and other incidents. So we're going to be getting the inside track on that. But that's enough about me talking about you in third person there, mate. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you very much for taking time out of your evening today to speak with me. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Liam. Just thank you very much, mate. I'm humbled, to be here, and I just want to thank you for the chance to tell a bit of the story of mine. That's all. Thank you.
You're very welcome. As I said, it really is a pleasure. So let's start at the beginning. Well, I'd say the beginning, but really let's start with the present day for a moment. Obviously, your book, your life story is now out there. People can purchase it, people can buy it. How does it feel to see your life in print in its current format? All of the highs and lows you've been through to be out there for people to read about.
Well, I'm humbled, as I said, to have had the chance to share my story a little bit. Yeah, I'm humbled. I'm very, very proud, but I've stripped myself. I'm feeling a bit naked.
Yeah. Absolutely. And obviously, when it comes to the book itself, and when it comes to the book being out there, we don't want to give too much away from the book today, by the way, so I am just going to precursor our audience with that, just to mention that. But if you want to know the ins and outs of the story, go and buy the book, everybody. Today, we are touching on highlights, and sorry, Matt, I should have said that in the intro. Amazing. So, okay, so your life is in print. Now, you've obviously come back to Wales to promote the book, but you're actually living in Qatar at the moment. Can you share with us a little bit about what took you away from the home country of Wales and what you're doing out there in your part of the world that you're in now?
Well, I'm working here in a school. It was my wife that had the main job. She's a teacher. She's now moved up the list to middle management. She's doing pastoral care with the children and things, and I'm working in the same school as a lab technician in the physics department in the school.
Okay, so that's what you're doing out there, and but you have been back to Wales recently, I believe, in order to promote the book and everything. Can you share with us a little bit about that experience of coming back home for a little while in terms of the book tour and in terms of the reception that you've been getting?
Well, we come back on school holidays anyway, and the World Cup was here for this last month and a half, as you know, so we were allowed a little bit extra time to come back. The experience to come back was fantastic. I've had the book launches in most of my older clubs, like Vale and Neath, you know, wonderful. The reception of the boys, the people, the supporters was really good. I had nothing but love off them. You know, it was a really uplifting experience, mate. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Wonderful to hear that it's going so well. Obviously, when this interview goes out, it will be going out all around the world. So, if people wish to purchase your book, we'll just give it a quick plug before we get into other things about your life. Where can people get it from?
It's available on Amazon. It's available through St. David's Press, and it's available in most of the major outlets, Smiths and Waterstones, but you need to go in and ask, and they can order it next day delivery.
Excellent, excellent.
So,
Well,
and also, we're hoping to get an ebook out on Amazon end of this month, I think.
fantastic. So people can read it in different formats. Well, that's brilliant, and I'm so glad it's going so well, and the warm reception that you are receiving. It seems to be wonderful. So, okay, so let's go back in time a little bit and talk about some aspects of your life in the past, and obviously including some of what is included in the book. Now, with that in mind, as I mentioned, without giving too much away, a big part of your journey, which I think is so inspirational, is obviously the work you've done to work through and overcome the stammer or speech impediment, or whatever you refer to it as. Very, very inspirational. I don't know if you realize that. Going back to your early life, if you don't mind me asking, was that something that was always there, or was there a particular incident that sort of caused that to
No,
develop?
well, the earliest really I'm able to remember it when I was around 6 or 7 years of age. Yeah,
Mm,
I was raised on a council estate, and then it wasn't like it is now. You know, it was just reaction to it was just, oh, shut up and get on some with it, you know. And you know, the word they use now is um, bullying, but it wasn't then. It wasn't seen as bullying. It was part of you growing up, teasing and calling names, and everything was part and parcel of life on mine and thousands of other council estates. That was the way it was, you know.
mm, absolutely. And it's good that there's so much more awareness of these things these days, and
Yeah.
that is good. So bullying, it wasn't seen that way then. Obviously, a feature of the book, and to some extent a feature of your life and what you're known for is, well, it is anger, really. I mean, in the word, I mean, this is something that obviously you talk about in your book, you talk about very openly in other interviews that I've read and seen. But again, going back to those early years, did that stem from primarily from the bullying, from the way you were treated by people?
Yeah, it was my personal frustration, really, of not. There's kids there were reading books and this and that and going through, and I was struggling on one syllable words. You know, I was. It made me a little bit isolated in, and you know, there was a lot of it. It was expanded in my own head. It was made up. It was not made up, but it was exaggerated then. To other people, it's just, oh, well, shut up and carry on. But to me, it was life shaping. Yeah.
Mm,
I'd want to hide it. I would, and that is where I think I've made the most the progress then and all through my teens and up till I was 30, 40 years of age. I wanted to hide my stammer and avoid speaking to people and using substitute words and all little techniques. But it was the shame of stammering was the big thing. And when I came out and announced it, and it was the self-acceptance really had a lot to do with it. But I'd had enough of hiding it. It's out there, and so what? Like,
Absolutely. Self-acceptance, self-love. I mean, that's a wonderful message in itself, by the way. It's a wonderful message for other people going through any similar type of thing as well. I mean, that's not a question. I'm just saying it's really, really good to get that out there. Obviously, at the time of growing up and into your career with rugby, anger was a very prominent feature. Looking at it from the outside, looking in, at your life, obviously, it seems like it has a positive and a negative side. So obviously, there was a bit of trouble and there was some big incidents, but perhaps without the anger that you had, you wouldn't have gone as far as you did either.
exactly, yeah.
Do you agree with that?
There's been positive and negative effects, yeah. Personally, I was three different people, yeah. At home, I was totally divorced off the personas that I'd manufactured out there to hide my inadequacies. And it started off really in school. I was totally angry at myself and angry at the world. I removed myself a little bit. I was a bit of a loner. I'd avoid speaking to people. And as luck would have it, and rugby came into my life, and then I had an outlet. I in my teens I was arrested a few times for for scrapping and stuff and being a clown, being an idiot, and then rugby came in, and the physical part of the rugby was it was the part that I grew. I enjoyed that part of it, the smash, the contact. It was a way to rid myself, it's part of like flagellation and really of myself to hit the anger, to hit the hate out of myself.
Absolutely, yeah. But just following on from your last answer just then, obviously you were turning a negative situation into a positive situation by channeling your rage and your fury into the game. But obviously people had a tendency to focus on your bad boy image and on these incidents that happened, and the press in particular really sort of zoned in on that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that now? The extent
Looking back now, I'm thinking it's like then I encouraged it myself. I did nothing whatsoever to try and alter it. In my eyes, I was getting my name in the paper, be it good or bad. And it was my father, he was a big one for little quotes, and he said, no press is bad press. So I grew that side of my game. Yeah. because I had no want to go out there to play rugby, to out out the back door with the passes and stuff like that. It's, it's, that's all I wanted to do. It was a damage. That's all I wanted to do was damage. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it makes sense. We'll come back to that topic shortly, but flipping that on its head, because the press, they dwelled on the negative things that they do. When you look back on your career now, what moments are you most proud of? Which moments would you say, are some of the most special? I know this is a big question, but it'd be good to get your inside track on that.
I'd like to say, as a Welsh, well, I've had a couple of nice instances, but the main one is the first cap. It's 87 to Scotland. I scored a debut try, and to me and to my mum and dad, all the relatives, sister, to the town. That was the main thing, was your first cap. Yeah, that's the pinnacle to end, to a Welshman in the 70s and the 80s.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes sense. I love asking that question because it's usually not always the answer you expect, but it's a great answer. And as I said at the beginning, people can find out more about that in the book, obviously. Also, just to give people a little bit of I don't know what to call it really, but a little bit of excitement with some of the incidents that happened that are also going to be tackled in the book. We won't talk about too many, but there are some that are quite notorious, like the 30-odd week ban, like the breaking of one of your opponent's eye socket and what have you. In moments like that, what was going through your mind then? Obviously the anger, I know, but just to go a little bit deeper into that. And what do you think of it looking back on those type of things now, on those moments, having mellowed, having had time to reflect on them?
It was the lowest point really was Ian Goff. Yeah, that was the instance that stopped me in my tracks. Really, it was, shoot, what have I done? Yeah, I felt ashamed at that time, that instance. I can remember I felt devastated for him and me. Which is not a thing, but I was ashamed, feeling guilt. At the time, I was in a very reactive place in my head. I'd come back from rugby league. I was having concussion issues. And that affected my speech at that time. I couldn't put 3 words together. I was in a bad spot, and I'd become extremely reactive on and off the field.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I mean,
Just I'd been sent off for the fight with Stuart Evans. There was loads of other things. There was off the field instances, and to cap it all off, then that instance with Ian was the wake up call. it slapped me in the face really that you know, whoa boy, you've got to stop this. Like you can't carry on. There's something wrong here.
The wake up call. It makes sense. It does make a lot of sense. Obviously, the title of your book, Fighting to Speak, but it's also Rugby, Rage and Redemption. So, talking about the redemption concept or the concept of forgiveness and things of that nature, how do you feel, or what are some of the steps you feel you've taken to, for people to forgive you, for people to understand that there is much more to you as a person?
Yeah.
Definitely.
In the book, I've peeled myself. I've let my I've shown it. I've given my guts then really to the book. I've peeled myself. I've shown that I've been very insecure. Self-esteem was very low, and I've made a lot of mistakes in the way I've acted. And I hope the book will go a long way to show why I'm not looking to excuse it, I'm just looking to explain it. It's like, if you don't stammer or never stammered, you'll never know what it's like. Yeah, because normal people can just open their mouths and words come out for hours and hours non-stop. Yeah, with me and the millions of others, every word is a battle. I have to think ahead for 3 to 4 words ahead to find a word in my head that I'm able to say. And you get a block, I'd get, anxiety, panic. I'd have the cement, the mixer in my guts, and the basketball in my mouth. And when I'm there like that, trying to speak, you've got a person laughing in your face. Like, it doesn't, it's not good. Like, and then I reacted to the things like that, those little things. It's like, you walk in a shop and I couldn't ask for a loaf of bread in the shop, or like in a bar and ask for a pint. It was as if the spotlights would come on you and 2 million people staring and pointing a finger, laughing like. And that then expands into it in you. You go to bed in the night and you're thinking about that, and it's just growing. The malevolence is growing in you,
It makes a lot of sense as to what was going through your mind at that time and journey. I have to say, by the way, Mark, it is actually, I've got a lot of respect for you doing this talk today and doing talks like this, by the way. Given, obviously, this isn't a question, I'm just saying, given everything that you've been through with speaking with something that most people take for granted, most people probably don't think twice about the fact they can do it. So obviously doing public talks like this, this isn't, I'm just saying from me to you now, I've got a lot of respect and I've been thinking it all evening when we've been talking, but I just thought, you know what, I'll just say it because well,
that means a lot, mate. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
It's a brave thing. It really is a brave thing, I mean, in your circumstances, doing something like this probably takes as much sort of courage and whatnot as it did to go out on the pitch and do everything in rugby, So it's but yeah, that's just something from me to you anyway.
Thanks very much, Liam. That's very kind of you, mate. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Simple as that. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. So obviously, the whole anger thing is a very prominent feature. But as time has gone by, you've taken steps to address that and to obviously, because talking with you now, I mean, you'd never think that that was,
an
something
issue.
wrong.
No, well, I have come a long way, mate, a hell of a long way. Yeah.
Absolutely. What were some of the steps that you took to be less reactive or less explosive in terms of settling yourself down and not reacting in
It
that
was
way?
speech therapy was a lot of it, mate.
Mm.
A lot of it was speech therapy. There was a guy in Ebervale that paid for me to have speech therapy. It's a guy called Bob Jude, and like he was like a father to me, and he actually paid for speech therapy, and that went a long way to start it. That happened just after the incident, the incident with Ian, and I had I had to learn to speak again, because as I expressed, like, it was part of the concussions and part of my speech, but it was interlinked as the time went on. When I was back in Union, I wasn't having the battering that I was getting up north, and my headaches eased, and the instantaneous, well, like, I'd wake up as if I'd been hit with a hammer on my head, and they sort of eased off over, it's a matter of a year and a half, and they went with the headache started to go a little bit, and the speech, it helped me a hell of a lot, the speech therapy, yeah. And I was like, I do breathing exercises, and I'd have to speak on a breath. I'd be like A, B, C, and then I'd move on into cat, dog, and it's amazing that, the euphoria I felt when I actually said a sentence, the first sentence of about 8 words, and I didn't stammer. I thought I was King Kong. I was Mark Champion of the world at that minute. It meant so much to me.
It's a beautiful thing. That really is. I mean, as I mentioned just now, even being able to have conversations like this now, it must be massive to you.
Oh, so, the therapy, you learn things, and it's a constant all the time. I have to do breathing exercises all the time. I have to rehearse speaking on a breath. I have to not rush. I have to get the preparation correct, then, whereas I'd say this again, to normal people, it's unconscious. To me, I have to think about it all the time. Yeah. And it used to be exhausting, constantly in a car crash. Now I'm far more relaxed, and I'm able to speak 80 to 90% okay, like.
Well, it's a wonderful thing, first of all, for you in your own life. But as well as that, it's a very inspirational thing as well for showing other people what can be done
You
if you
can't,
put your mind to it, and if you put your
50
mind,
years more or less, I've had the stammer for, yeah. And it's always been there, it's me. But, there's ways that you can you can make life a lot easier for yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which leads me to another point with this as well. It leads me to another thing. With the book, and obviously the book is a form of healing in a way for you, by the sound of
Therapy, mate. Like it was my therapy, yeah.
it. And in terms of the impact that you believe it will have or is having on other people in terms of inspiration, in terms of giving people hope and what, if people are going through some of the things you went through, knowing that they're not alone, or all of that type of stuff. What are your thoughts on the impact that the book is having on people in that way, in that inspirational type of way?
And I hope it's going to help a lot of people because having a stammer is still to normal people. It's a joke. It's still a joke. You know, for loads of comedians now, it's a go-to gag still. Yeah, and then unless you've unless you've stammered or you've been there or you've lived with a person that stammers, it's like you'll never know. My wife now, she's lived through this, man. We've been together now 20 years and she's lived through it. She's put up with me being up there and down there. It it it, it really hits you mentally, and it really affects the people around you. And the support, she's been fantastic, man. Really good, wonderful. In fact, she pushed me when I needed a push, and she's given me love when I needed love. But the people out there who, well, I've known, well, I know, I, I have a mate who has a cousin that stammers, and she works on the checkout at Morrison's with a BA because she cannot interview for a job. She doesn't have the confidence to interview as same as myself. Like I had offers of jobs here and there, but not a chance. You can't communicate. It's the communication. Modern life, that's what it all hinges on, is communication. Like, you make a living from it. Yeah? People who stammer can't. It makes you want to hide away. It isolates you. It makes you feel like an alien. Yeah, I made a bad one then. Sorry, alien. Said it again, my friend.
Well,
Fourth time. Yeah, but it's life affecting. But the people that are there that have a stammer, please, right? I was lucky enough to have rugby. Because if I wouldn't have had rugby, I don't know where I'd have been. Because I'd have still have had the anger issues. And like I said, in my teens, I was arrested a couple of times fighting and stuff. And who knows where I'd have been. I'm so lucky to have had the release of rugby and sport and to sort myself out.
well, a few things about what you said there. It's a beautiful message because what you're doing with putting yourself out there and putting the book out there will make those people with Alzheimer's feel like they're not alone, feel like it's possible to overcome this. Because one of the things that really resonated with me personally from this talk is the sense of isolation that you felt, or you must have felt at that time. And one of the things about life, people often think that they're the only one going through something, you know. And the fact you put the book out there and you're speaking about this, it breaks down those boundaries of people
Yeah,
and, you know, marks them. I can make changes with this as well. So thank you for sharing that. Now we're moving just towards the last couple of things for this talk now as well, because you know what people's attention spans are like. So we'll move into the last couple of things. Do you feel now that people understand um, the other side of you, that the public perception of you has changed so greatly with the book in terms of rugby itself and how you're remembered as a player, you know, how you're remembered for on the pitch, but also obviously as a man, as a person. Do you feel that there's been a shift in the sense people can see the gentle
I
side?
hope so. Yeah, I hope so. You know, the love and the respect I had in the book launches was unbelievable. It was fantastic. The acceptance, the people that have known me then, teammates and stuff, they knew part of it, but I was always hiding a lot of it. I was rugby Mark and at home Mark. Yeah, not all of them knew at home Mark, but now I hope that with the book it will permeate out there that I wasn't just a fool and a clown and an idiot.
Absolutely. I think it will. I think it is already doing that. So, last two questions now, okay? You've given some great advice for other people who have stammers and other people who are struggling in the area of speech. I'd like to do the same thing for people who are struggling with anger and struggling with um, being explosive and whatnot. Because you've been through that and you've come out the other side of it and everything, if there are people out there who are struggling more specifically with that sort of area of life, with keeping a cool head and everything, what would you say to those people who struggle with that typically,
All speaking on a personal level, my experience is that I'd I had to avoid the situation. You need to reflect on yourself because it's not other people, it's you. Yeah,
Yeah,
or occupy yourself. You know, exercise, release your endorphins. You know, feel good hormones.
mhm,
Avoid the confrontation with people. Just live your own life, yeah. And also, you need to reflect on the way you've been and look at instances where you've blamed others, whereas really you were the one to blame. And the self realization, what's making you like that? What has an event happened in your past that has made you angry, that has made you hate yourself or hate other people? Speak about it. Speak to your mate about it. Go to counseling. Accept yourself.
mhm. Powerful advice there, as I knew there would be. But it's a lesson you've learned from. Well, I mean, it's you're very humble about it all, but you have really been to the depth of that and back up, to a good level where you are now. So,
I've been in Qatar for 10 years now, and it's a little bit isolating. It's not the social of the UK, and you get a lot of time to think and to self-reflect, and also the spirit. I go back to this. My wife has been a catalyst. She's told me often, like, it's because she shared stories about this and that on and off the field. And she's told me, Mark, I love you, but I don't like you. You haven't been a nice boy, you've been horrid. But she used far more um, expressive language than that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Um, Amazing. Well, the last one really, Mark, for the evening, because we've talked about some wonderful things today. The last question really is just, is there anything else you would like to say to the people who have supported you? So you've mentioned your wife, but in terms of people who bought the book or are going to buy it, people who supported you in your rugby days, I don't mind which form the supporters take, if you like, but just those people who've been good to you, loyal to you, doing work behind the scenes. Is there anyone else you'd like to thank out there at all?
Well, from the top, my wife and my 4 kids. Yeah. It's my parents-in-law, my sister, Ashley Drake, who's the publisher, Bunko, the co-writer, the ghostwriter, everybody who I've come into contact with in rugby has, from the age of 8 up to it's not retirement 20, 30 years later, I've had nothing but love and support off them all. Now, and there's men that have given all their lives as a volunteer around the clubs, helping the men all over the place. There's some wonderful people involved in rugby, and long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Well, Mark, we've talked about some wonderful things here, and hopefully it's whetted people's appetites for reading the book and going in depth into your life. But what I'm happy about here is, as well as sharing the highs and the lows, we've shared some really powerful life lessons, to give people
Thanks,
some
mate.
hope and to give people some positivity and to give people some upliftment and all of those things, which is really what I aim for with these interviews. It's a big part of why I do them. So the last thing for me to do is once again just to say thank you for your time, thank you for coming on the show, taking time out of your evening, and thank you for being, no pun intended, but an open book. As soon as we've been talking about the book, you've been an open book with me and with the audience.
That means a lot, Liam. And I'd like to give you the thank you for the chance to air my story, really. And as a parting shot, like, to me, like, age of 8, perhaps at the latest, 8 up until now, I've had a stammer, right? But I've lived my life. I've been lucky enough to live my life, yeah. And I've had a journey, yeah. And life is about a journey. It isn't about the destination. I could have easily wrapped it up and gone and hid in the bedroom, but I couldn't. You've got one life, yeah, and you've got to live it, mate. And that's the story, really. That's my part in short, really. Like, you've got one life, live it, and it's about the journey, not the destination. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful message in itself, actually. It's a beautiful message. Thank you for sharing that. I had a feeling there was something else there that you wanted to say. Hence, I asked about
Much
the
appreciated, Liam, mate.
no, just an instinct, that's why I said about the, thanking the
Thank
support.
you.
Well, thank you for your time once again. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.